Hey guys, welcome to the Startup Tank Climate Investor Pitch Show. If this is your first time, I'm your host, Matt Ward, founder of 4WARD.VC and our climate investor group. You can find out more about us at 4WARD.VC, the number 4WARD.VC. We invest in companies that move the world forward, kind of like some of the companies that you'll see here today. Today, we've got an awesome lineup planned for you. 6 incredible climate companies, anywhere from pre-seed all the way up to pre-Series A, that are doing big things in the world. We've done a ton of work. I've been traveling, so I'm going to do my best to be on it. I've had my coffee and I'm ready to rock on this. And I'm joined today by 2 incredible investor panelists, Sara over at Yabeo Impact and Mascha over with Ananda Impact Ventures. I'll give them a second to introduce themselves. But first, I want to tell you guys that today's episode is brought to you by Carta, Valbon by Carta. So they're the system that we love and use for setting up our SPVs. When we're setting up SPVs with our syndicate, we want to pool investors together. That's the fastest, simplest, easiest way for us to do it, and to know that no matter what happens, 100% compliant, simple for investors, easy to pool capital together and make awesome investments. To learn more about our investor group, if you're accredited, you can go to 4WARD.VC, the number 4WARD.VC. And this is the Startup Tank, which you can find us at thestartuptank.com. Tonight, we've got a really, really cool offer for all the startups presenting and for anyone who's listening. So for the first time ever, dun, 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 we have an award for the Startup Tank. So the company that's named Climate Company of the Night or Startup of the Night, well, we're sponsored now by Eugen Agency. And what that means for you is there's going to be some really cool prizes. The winner will unlock, in fact, let me make sure I have this perfectly lined up, but they will unlock a free landing page customized by Eugen Agency and an email template. So you can have some type of call to action offer, etc., grab people's information, and then have your newsletter and all the information that you're sending out to other companies perfect or perfected, so that you look professional when you're bringing on new customers, talking to investors, etc. It's nice to have that insider. You can learn more about them and more about the Startup of the Night, which we'll have the presentation at the end, at 4WARD, the number 4WARD.VC/Eugen. That's YUGEN. A little tough to spell, but you'll find the links in the show notes. And now I want to pull in my other investor panelists here. So let's get Mascha in here. Let's get Sara in here, and then share a little bit more about both of them, what they're doing, and then we'll go over the format. These are our sharks, so to speak, our dragons. So you wanna go first, Sara, and tell us what your story is. What are you looking for?
Of course. Well, thanks so much for having me. Very excited for this. I work for a Munich-based venture capital. So in that sense, I actually know Mascha from Munich. We're located in the same city. And I focus on all things environmental and social impact, so education, and then green tech, clean tech, mostly around the energy space and all of that, quite early stage. So seed and early Series A. All around Europe, very much looking forward to this. Personally, I have a background in education and consulting, and when the opportunity presented to move to VC and help a bunch of really cool companies kind of move forward and develop, I took it end of last year, and then I joined this year VC.
Awesome. Thanks for the overview, Sara. And Mascha?
Thank you so much, Matt, for having me. I think I can copy paste a lot of the things that Sara has said, but maybe also to give you a bit of more background. I'm an associate at Ananda Impact Ventures. We are an early stage impact VC, so we do everything from pre-seed to Series A. Also with a European focus, our offices are in Munich, Berlin, and London. So this is also where our regional focus lies. We are currently investing from our fourth fund, which is a bit more than 100 million. And with regards to impact, we also do both the environmental and the social side of things. And I'm very much looking forward to hearing your pitches today.
Awesome. And thank you guys for joining and helping us choose a Startup of the Night. So again, at the end of the night, we'll vote. We've got 6 awesome companies. We'll pick our favorite, and they'll be awarded with the grand prize, so to speak. But all the runners up, they'll still get an awesome email template from the Eugen Agency. I believe we need to finalize that, but I'll make the connection and make sure that basically the agency. They're awesome at what they do and to design, and they want to move more into the climate space and helping climate founders succeed. It's a little more meaningful than B2B SaaS and D2C, which is why I transitioned to this as well. And I'm your host. I'm Matt Ward. I run 4WARD.VC. We're an early stage climate syndicate investing in companies that move the world forward, ones that are tackling really big, hairy, ugly real world problems with, I like to say, crazy ass founders who are willing to do whatever it takes to make things happen. There's some exciting announcements coming soon that I can't tell you about, but they involve rocket fuel and going fast. And I'm sure you can read between the lines on that. To find out more about us or to apply to pitch on a future segment of the Startup Tank, visit either 4WARD.VC or thestartuptank.com. You'll find us there. Subscribe, hit the subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, etc., so you don't miss this. And now I think I've done enough rambling. One last thing to tell you before we jump into it. This is valuable for founders. We've got a database of 750 plus climate funds, incubators, accelerators, and CVCs. So if you're looking for the perfect investor for you, it's filterable by stage, sector, geography, check size. So if you're an Indian company running a D2C company in the energy space, or if you're in Mexico and producing the newest plant-based meats and you want to find investors focused on your region, etc., you can find it all there. 4WARD.VC/VC database. And now let's move on to the kind of core of the program, and that is the companies, of course. So each company, we've got 6 on here. They're going to get 5 minutes to pitch with their screen sharing, and we're real persnickety, so to speak, about the timing. So to kick things off, I think that how about we hand things over to Aaron with Bing Klima, the future of urban farming. I don't want to spoil their dual use pitch, so I would bring Aaron in here now, or Aaron. I'm terrible with names. I'm sorry. I'm supposed to get the names wrong of at least one person on every pitch show. It might have to be you. Are you ready?
Yeah. Hi. So that's Aaron Zimmerman, and I'll be presenting Bing Klima from Israel. So let's get to it. This is what we see as our opportunity: urban deserts, cities all over the world. Now, that's what cities would like to have: nice green roofs with enormous ecological advantages for the city. But this is what people are actually willing to pay for, which is solar power for the grid. So that's where we come in with a combined solution that has surprising synergies of solar and green roofs. Now, there is a growing realization that sustainable means, in many cases, local and distributed. It's very true for agriculture, where a huge part of the cost, both financial and ecological, comes from the transport of the goods. And it's also true for electricity, where the need for distributed electricity is translated into very favorable feed-in tariffs for local electricity. And that's what we local energy and local agriculture. And this is our solution. Our solution is a soilless agrivoltaic system. So it's agrivoltaic, but on a roof. It's a modular system comprising of a water tank, a hydroponic system, and on top of that, a solar panel. And that enables you to run urban farming projects that are when you compare them to other urban farming projects, they are much less capital intensive. They should be easier to finance because of the secure revenue from the solar, and they are net energy generators rather than huge energy consumers like vertical farms. Now, we are a purpose-driven company, and this is where we see our impact. We produce clean energy and clean food. Clean food is 95% less water than traditional farming. It's much less food loss. It's less greenhouse gas emissions. And there is no soil depletion or water contamination because this is hydroponic. On top of that, we also contribute to the urban ecology because these are actual green roofs that cities really like to have. Now, why you shouldn't do this at home? It looks simple, but it's not. And we have a proprietary patented solution with 2 approved patents for the system. We also have a growing know-how on how to actually do this. This is a new microclimate This is actually our first paying customer in Israel. So it's a new microclimate. You grow stuff under a solar panel on a roof, and you need to know how to do this. And this is something we're starting to know better than anyone else. And we're evolving our offering so we could work in just about any climate. I was talking about energy. So the footprint of traditional agriculture comes mainly from transportation, vertical farming. To produce 1 ton of lettuce, you have to emit 7 tons of CO2. And we actually see ourselves as a negative emitter because on top of growing the lettuce, we actually produce energy from the sun. Now, our next challenge is actually running projects that are self-sustained. A typical project should be a roof where you pay the rent. You get financing from a bank, and then you have a joint venture that gets the revenue from 2 sources. The electricity from the grid pays for the capex, and then you can sell the produce to cover the opex of the produce and a healthy margin. From our figures, these projects should provide us with something like 15% IRR without leverage, or 30%
1 minute
leverage.
warning.
Yeah. So if we think bigger, if we cover 50,000 roof, we'll be a very substantial company with a gigaton scale impact. And just a minute for the team, very experienced team with experience both in R&D, product development, finance, strategy, and very much committed to climate change. We've 6 pilots, a first paying customer, and 2 patents approved. And now the next stage, we are raising $1 million or more to support us in getting into the European market and start to actually launch the product. Okay.
Awesome. Great pitch. Thanks for sharing, and you pulled it off. And time-wise, very cool. Let me bring in our other investors.
Yeah.
While I'm doing that, you mentioned the energy impact or the carbon footprint versus normal farming. What about taking into account the equipment that you have to produce one of these? What's the green payback period, so to speak?
We haven't done the math, but this is 100%. This is recycled plastic. This is why it's black. Yeah. So it's recycled plastic, and the energy part, the aluminum and stuff for the energy part is standard for. But I'm sorry, we haven't done the real math for this. It should be negligible.
Understood. I would hand things over then to Mascha. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Happy to. Thanks for the pitch. Can you explain a bit more of who your customer is? Who are you looking to sell for?
Yeah, so the end customers buying the actual produce should be local customers, local restaurants or food chains. And this is last mile transportation. But we're looking to customers that can mount those projects. So people who can develop a project or a rooftop project, so including solar plus running the actual operation. We realize that for the first step, we have to actually run those projects because there are no projects like that in the world. But eventually, we'll be selling to the people who are setting up the project. So urban farmers, but you have to invent them first and be one of them first before you can start selling to them.
You mentioned you want to adapt those roof or those installations to different climate zones. How would that work?
Yeah.
Because I can imagine in Israel, it's usually quite warm. It doesn't get too cold in the winter, but I can't really imagine this being grown in Sweden, where it's dark and very cold all day in the winter.
Yes, so our next generation would include a greenhouse.
Mm-hmm.
And so a heating system that's also passive heating. With this, we should be able to grow things even in Sweden in the winter because you can heat the water. Actually, the only important thing is to heat the water coming to the roots, not the entire thing. So you're still very much energy efficient because you're warming a very small area. And this would also work for desert climates where we have to actually cool the water. But that's the next generation. We're focusing on climates that are, let's say, up to the line of Paris. If you're talking about Paris, Munich, if you're talking about Europe, that's as far north as we can go now.
Mm-hmm. And have you looked at what kind of share of roofs is like eligible for your solution? Because obviously, I mean, they need to be flat. You need to have access to the roof and so on.
No, this would be a very local thing, but we don't see it as an actual limitation on our growth. We don't need too much carrying capacity, so we just need the roof to apply to the standard capacity for a commercial roof. But it does have to be flat. I think we're very far from reaching that limit. So. And it's very, very local. There are no statistics in the world about, the available roofs.
It is very local. And one issue that you brought up earlier is having to create the first wave of urban farmers. It's always harder to convince people to change or to create a movement than it is to sell into an existing pain point. Why or how are you going to be able to really do that compared to traditional rooftop solar or other options out there?
I think the main selling point is that plainly our projects should be much more profitable than just installing solar. So if you go to a roof owner and he could get X NPV from installing solar, we could get probably twice X by doing this. So we should be able to find the roof owners and the people who will do the projects with us. If we get a 15% theoretical IRR, we get interest in financing those projects. So we'll have to actually run those projects with partners that they know what they're doing in order to prove the commercial viability.
But then who harvests the plants? Now. Who harvests the plants then? Who harvests the crops then?
We will set up the operation with and we're in negotiations with firms right now who are doing hydroponics, and we will set up the operations for this. For the first steps, we'll have to do it ourselves in joint ventures that we're heavily involved in. Hopefully, in further on, it will be simpler and people will just do it on their own. But yes, we have to take care of all of this now.
How much does it cost you to put such a solar panel versus the traditional ones? How much extra cost are we talking about?
It's about twice the investment. So if you take a 500 square meter roof, the investment should be around 120,000 euros, all included. And I think the investment for just solar, at least here, it should be about 50-something thousand euros. So it's just about the double. And your net revenues should be also about double after the cost of running the agricultural operation. So for the same roof, you pay double and you get double.
Okay. So the ROI remains similar.
Mm-hmm. Can you elaborate a bit more on the technology? Like, where do you see your USP? And like, I think you also touched upon that you do have like patent waiting. So what is the part of the technology that you are planning to protect?
I'm not sure I heard you correctly.
Where in the technology do you see your core USP and what part do you plan to protect?
We do have two approved patents. So the products we plan to protect are already protected and approved. And this is mainly, the main patent is the idea of a single system insulated that contains both solar and hydroponic, and that can be connected with other units to create a solar hydroponic installation. So this is actually quite a strong patent covering our basic idea. Now the rest of it, there are actual technical parts to it that are also protected, but this is the main idea that's protected, and it's quite strong actually.
So no one else can create a solar vertical farm or hydroponic farm combination then?
You can create, if you're doing the standard way, you're insulating the roof and you're doing a rooftop farm, and on top of that we want to install solar, that is not protected. But if you want to create modules like ours that are self-contained, insulated, and contain the entire system, this is actually protected.
Okay. Sara, Mascha, any last questions?
No, very interesting. Thank you so much for the pitch.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you for listening.
And thank you, Eran, for the pitch. It is certainly it's a super interesting one. We started with building tech, so how about we go a little bit further and get into maybe a competitor, or at least maybe a collaborator of yours, Loop Farms and Julie. Julie, do you want to take over?
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Let me give you the spotlight, and you should be there. Get your screen going, and then let me know, and you will have 5 minutes. I'll give you a 1-minute warning as you tell us what the future of food looks like.
Great. Okay. So imagine you're stranded on a deserted island, and it looks like you're probably going to be there for a while. But maybe this island actually has everything you need to thrive and survive. And if you take care of it, maybe you could live there forever. In many ways, our cities are like islands, but we don't have everything we need to survive. In most cases, our food travels far from where we live, and this is a problem. As of 2020, the food production system and its complicated supply chain was responsible for more than 1/4 of the world's greenhouse gas emissions annually. So what are we doing about this? Well, there are a few potential solutions, and some think that vertical urban warehouse farms might be one of them. But unfortunately, simulating the indoor climate needed for crops to thrive requires an immense amount of energy. And that makes these farms incredibly expensive and not that sustainable to operate. So while promising, we don't believe that this is the future. And we've seen increasingly that the market wants to take matters into their own hands. But most of us don't have the time or expertise needed to run our own farms. Given this interest and the supply shocks of recent years, this is contributing to a true urgency for solutions that are both self-sufficient and resilient, and is accountable for the growth in the farming as a service market. But while there are an increasing number of providers in this market, none of them offer a solution that is easy, inexpensive, and sustainable to operate. So that's where we come in. The solution that we've developed is a zero-waste farm system. These systems, like the island we imagined earlier, are fully self-sufficient. And this has forced us to completely reimagine what an indoor farm could look like. Our commitment to finding a fully circular solution to this challenge has forced us to develop new and scale experimental technologies to achieve a closed-loop system. These systems are comprised of hardware and software. The farm unit itself is solar-powered and upcycles waste into plant nutrients and energy that can then be used for gray and rainwater recycling. The IoT-enabled components allow us to automate up to 90% of the farm's operational requirements and optimize each farm's climate for maximum crop yield.
And so what does Loop Farms do for you? We'll size and design the farm to fit your specific space and production needs. We'll install the farm and we'll provide on-site management as well as remote monitoring to make sure your farm stays healthy year-round. And all of this with zero upfront costs. We price our farms based on a monthly subscription price commensurate with the annual productive capacity of your unique farm. And so far, we've built one MVP and we're working on a productive prototype right now in Berlin. We've also designed 6 farms with partners in South Africa that once built will be able to have a productive capacity of 330 tons. We've done this in collaboration with both local and global partners. And so who are we to bring this to you? Well, Amy is a systems design engineer, and that makes her the perfect person to bring together all the different systems we're integrating into one farm. As a trained biologist, I'm responsible for keeping the plants healthy and happy. And we recently added to our team with Pranav, who's managing our sales and business development strategy to help us get to our first paid client. What are we doing right now? So this floating prototype is on Rommelsberger Bay in Berlin. Amy and I built this with our own two hands, from raft to solar panels to greenhouse. And it is a fully circular, zero waste system that is capable of growing vegetables year round. And we're seeding right now and very excited to transplant our seedlings into our fogponic system. And so once we're finished with the prototype, we're looking for bridge to pre-seed funding to get us to
30 seconds, sorry.
To get us to our first client site. And then in the future, we're looking to develop a network of farms across Europe and globally. So if you're looking for strawberries available year round, grown next door, Luke Farms is your answer.
Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner. Strawberries are always great. Let me bring in the other panelists. Sara, Mascha, let's bring you guys in here. And do you want to kick things off this time, Sara? What questions do you have for the team?
Yeah, so I think my first question is you offer it as a service, and that always, well, when I hear that, especially in the beginning, it sounds very capital intensive. How much is it? Like, how much does it cost for you to produce such a unit, and how do you rent it out to your customers? And then answering with this, who actually is your ideal customer group?
So in terms of pricing, it's based on your productive tons. So for example, if you were looking to have a farm that could produce, say, 10 tons of vegetables annually, the total price spread over 10 years would be 350 to 400K. And that would be broken down by subscription, but the farms actually have a lifetime of up to 20 years. In terms of the capital cost, like, because it's a subscription model, there is capital cost on us for the beginning, but we believe that with the right number of clients, this could be, the economies of scale are pretty in our favor for that. And then who our customer is. So we're looking to sell to businesses. So that could be, luxury boutique hotels that have restaurants. It could be restaurants. It could even be, corporate campuses that have a cafeteria provider, and it can then spread to also cities and municipalities as well.
But are these units on the water?
They don't have to be on the water. So we're building our prototype on the water, one, because we were able to get space quickly to start building it, and two, because it was a really great way for us to test our circularity theories and zero waste theories by not being connected to land at all.
Are you pulling the water from the water? I feel like if you make something that works for both use cases, you're almost kind of making two different things or compromising it versus going just fully in one direction.
The idea behind this was to show the flexibility of these sites, and what some of the feedback that we got early on is that not everybody will have a rooftop, especially in Berlin, where rooftops are pretty expensive and hard to come by. To put a farm on. So we wanted to show that we really can make these anywhere, and they can pull the water from the regional supply if they need to. The water distillation technique that we use can take almost any water, regardless of its initial status, and make it clean enough to use in the grow system.
Awesome. Mascha or Sara?
I would be interested, did you do a market sizing exercise? Do you have an idea of how scalable that could be?
Yeah, so we're the TAM that we started with is the market for farming as a service. We think we might be able to access a little bit more than that, so that is conservative for us. And the serviceable available market that we're looking at is within Europe. Because we're aiming to operate our farms from one central system, this will allow us to scale faster than if we were operating each one independently or even training customers on how to operate them. So in order for us to expand, we just need to hire the minimal amount of on-site support that we would need in any new city. And this will allow us to access new European markets relatively quickly. So in the first year, we're aiming to establish at least 3 to 4 clients. And from there, we're hoping to scale to 2 new farms per month. And we believe that we can actually grow a lot faster than this once the market has developed an appreciation for this type of product.
How are the unit economics in yours compared to like in-farm? Well, in-farm on the very like indoor farming versus maybe normally grown strawberries?
Thank you for the question. This is part of what's driven us, in addition to the sustainability aspect, to develop something that's circular. The beauty of this is it brings the costs way down for operations. We're not connected to the grid, so there is a higher upfront cost to use solar equipment for energy, but then you don't have to tap into the grid at all for energy. And this is extremely incentivizing to people given the current energy crisis. The same goes for water. The sites are capable of treating all of their own water, so you can eliminate those costs as well. And one of the most unique features of these sites is that they produce their own nutrients from waste. So that can be waste from the farm site itself or even surplus waste from the community surrounding the site. And that means that farm operators don't need to purchase liquid nutrients from a volatile supply market. So they're able to bring the costs down to almost nothing. Once these farms are established, they are fully self-sustaining. So we can replicate the crops through propagation. There is no need to purchase additional seeds. So while the upfront cost is somewhat higher, it easily pays for itself after 3 to 4 years.
Okay, understood.
And then after implementation, like how much effort would you say it is to actually run such a farm, and who is going to take care of it?
So we initially we believe in this concept and we wanted people to run their own farms. But all of the market research we've done shows that while there is really an interest in this, people don't have the human resources to dedicate people to run these farms, and they don't have the know-how. So in order for us to access the people who really want to grow this produce on site, we needed to almost completely automate the requirements of the farm. So for our customers, we take care of everything except harvesting. And as an additional service, we'll even provide harvesting. Although this is a very easy task for a farm of about this size, an employee could just go and cut some basil or harvest some strawberries without much expertise. So all in all, they're very easy to operate.
But so if you're floating on the water, like, I mean, not all of them, but some of them, I'm wondering how does the harvesting work then? You go there with a boat, or can they be steered back to shore? How would that work?
So if we were implementing a floating farm for a client, we would recommend it being dockside, so you could easily get on and off of the farm. The one we have now does have a motor on it, so we do sail it around sometimes. But it is not a requirement that it should be mobile or not attached to land in any way.
Cool.
If it is so modular, why build lots of little ones versus one bigger one?
So companies like InFarm, they're kind of doing both things. They're using the big central warehouse and they're building farms in store for people. The problem with the big central warehouse is that there are still unsustainable aspects of this. Inevitably, there will be packaging requirements and still transportation requirements to get the products to the end customer. And so this makes the circular aspect of what we were aiming for basically impossible. It also increases costs. So we believe that if we're able to scale these units down to something that is affordable and right-sized for the productive needs of whichever customer we have, then we're able to keep this fully circular and make it accessible to new markets that previously would not have been able to work with this technology.
Why are you better or worse than Bing Klima or Bing Klima? It seems very competitive.
I'd say that we're different. I'll be diplomatic. We're trying to specifically design something that's made for a cold climate. So we had to take indoor climate controls into consideration early on. And this has forced us to do things a little bit differently. And we're also introducing a scaled up version of a fog ponics system, which is something that we haven't seen yet and something that we believe is critical for water efficiency. So these are a couple of big things we're doing differently.
What's the biggest challenge you have?
Convincing people that this is important. I think people are getting to that conclusion on their own, but the market is still developing for this. And so we're also trying to educate people that this is important.
Sara, Mascha, any last questions for Loop Farms?
No, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Awesome. Then thanks, Amy. Thanks, Julie, for sharing. Gonna transition things over to our next company of the night. And while I do, this is all brought to you by 4WARD.VC and our climate syndicate and soon to be announced other things, which you can learn more at 4WARD.VC. And the Startup Tank, thestartuptank.com, if you want to apply to pitch, if you're a pre-seed to pre-series A, really pre-seed or seed climate company tackling a really big, hairy real-world problem, more so than just the next carbon accounting or carbon marketplace. We want to hear from you. That's thestartuptank.com for more detail. Awesome. Thanks. That's everything from me. Mascha, Sara, do you have any last questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. Then thank you, Jason, for pitching and sharing. Let's take a quick time out to tell you that all of this is brought to you guys by Valbon, by Carta, the system we love and use for setting up SPVs. Fast, simple, easy way to get a legally compliant SPV, i.e. a special purpose vehicle, on boards for founders to either raise a round themselves, friends and family, or for syndicates and groups of investors like us to pool their capital so you don't have 1,500 people on the cap table, lots of mismanagement and trouble and issues when you try to go on to raise the larger round. If you want to learn more, 4WARD.VC/Carta, that's CARTA. You can find out more there. And for founders, they have some pretty awesome tools as well: cap table management, investor relations, etc. Basically, if you're running a startup, they're worth checking out. And again, all of this is brought to you as well by the Eugen Agency, who's going to be presenting our climate startup of the night, and the presenting companies as well, with a couple of cool design and perk benefits for their marketing package. Now let's move things on to our next company of the night. And we've been in the food space for a bit now, and in the kind of sustainable tracking. How about we go into sustainable energy tracking? Jane is doing something pretty interesting out of the UK. Jane and Perse. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about what you guys are doing, Jane, and take it away?
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I'm just getting my slides up.
No worries. Looks good. You ready?
Okay, so you can see those okay?
Looks good. Let's do it.
Brilliant. Okay, hi, I'm Jane Lucy. I'm co-founder and CEO of Perse. And we've done for the energy and carbon markets what open banking did for the financial sector in terms of unlocking access to data via an app store of plug and play use cases. In terms of the market conditions, traditionally, the main barrier in the energy market has been around lethargy and engagement, given that energy is invisible and boring. But given the current market conditions and the price crisis and access to energy and war in Ukraine and everything going on, cost and energy is in the news every day, and it's a top concern for most people. And it's not just the energy market. So given energy forms 73% of the world's carbon footprint, our world depends on the data required to not only measure carbon, but to identify where to deploy investment to deliver the best outcomes. So our solution is to unlock access to every single thing that's connected to the grid. So we've got 100% coverage of every home, business, electric vehicle, generation asset. So that's import, export, domestic, retail, commercial, smart meters, traditional meters, the whole lot. We don't need hardware to get this data. It's not reliant on any energy suppliers. It's also factual data. There's no AI or machine learning, which helps in terms of addressing any risks around greenwash. And as I said, it's not just smart meters, it's every single meter in the grid. Now, how it works is that we only need the address to be able to pull the energy history of every single meter. We separately have a database of all tariff pricing since 2007. And then we also have another database around carbon fuel mixes. And that's both on a location based, so the grid fuel mix, which we can do at a half hourly level, but also on a market based. So we actually have the carbon footprint per meter, depending on which energy supplier is supplying that meter. So this gives us for every building the energy profile, cost profile, carbon profile over any time period, historical, current, predictive, and only needing the address as a single data input. We've got a similar solution for vehicles as well, and that's not just electric vehicles, but also petrol and diesel. Again, we only require very simple data input in terms of the vehicle registration mark, and from there we pull the make, model, fuel type, energy capacity, mileage to again have that same energy cost and carbon profile. And that's again for every vehicle in Britain. So what this gives us is a massive opportunity in terms of an enormous data lake. We've already got over 2 billion data points and counting. There are over 100 use cases for our data. We're able to sell in multiple verticals. There's hundreds of customers for each use case. And fundamentally, our solution enables us to monetize the same data again and again. And the energy and carbon markets just in the UK alone are reached in the several billion pounds a year. In terms of our USPs, we're not in the business of selling raw data. We've created our own unique IP in a variety of use cases that we've built. Plus, there's 2 other unique IP areas of our solution. Firstly, in relation to the creation of granular customer profiles, and secondly, in relation to a recommendation engine for relevant products and services that can be done in an instantly personalised basis. Our business model is twofold. Firstly, we have a PaaS model where customers can ingest our APIs and they pay a platform fee and a per API call. And secondly, we've got a SaaS model for customers that don't have the tech resource to ingest APIs, and instead we give them a user interface and app store. But both are powered by the same technology solution. So the user interfaces are simply a layer on top of the same APIs.
Meaning, 1 minute warning.
Meaning we can monetize the same data again and again, being a high margin business. So we've got line of sight for the 1 million ARR milestone at the end of this year and are set to be profitable in Q1 of next. We've got 5 verticals that we're focused on. We are revenue generating and scaling in the energy, financial and property sectors so far. Insurance and transport are new verticals that we wish to add to our focus next year. Banks are a great ideal customer for us if you think about them in the context of their mortgage portfolio, because they own those buildings. They form part of their mandatory scope 1 and 2 emissions, but there's no way they can get hold of the data. There's no way they can get their customers to consent to give them access. But we've had industry approval to be able to get this data for them without needing consent. All they need to do is give us a list of their addresses in their portfolio, and we can give them back the market-based and location-based footprints. Plus, we can identify customers who have a high propensity to respond to a green loan. Our team is very experienced with...
Your time is up. I'm sorry, Jane. How much are you guys raising?
So we're looking at raising between £1 to £3 million, primarily to expand our sales team. Our sales to date have been founder-led. So as I mentioned, we've got lots of opportunity to go deeper in the financial and property verticals, as well as expand to transport and insurance. We've also landed some high-profile partnerships in the last couple of months where they give us access to millions and millions of customers. So there's also bandwidth that we need to make sure that we can monetize those relationships.
And in terms of monetizing those relationships, how do you plan to do that? You have all of this data. Is it a sales team? Is it direct sales? How do you start to make that happen? And as a second question, do you have any worries that once you start to monetize the data and monetize it effectively, the data may no longer be freely accessible to you guys?
No. So dealing with the first question, our solutions are all automated and scalable. So in terms of monetizing the customer bases, so often, we get access to them through the carbon reporting, but then very quickly our customer wants to be able to help bring their customers on their net zero journey with them. So that's where our recommendation engine and our consumer profiles come into play, because we can recognize customers that will have the propensity to engage in something. So for instance, which building has a roof suitable for solar? They don't already have solar panels there, but they have an EV there. So again, they might be more driven to want to get solar panels. And then with our recommendation engine, we can instantly personalize that green loan to install solar panels based on their actual current usage and their actual current costs. So we know how much energy they'll use with the solar panels and what the different cost basis will be for their energy bills as a result of installing them. So that then gives them an instantly personalized business case for that loan. And then we have the data to be able to prove the outcomes of those solar panel installation, to show to both the customer and the bank exactly what cost and carbon savings were delivered. In terms of the risk of the data not being accessible anymore, there's been sort of two key drivers to unlock access. One has been an order by the Competition and Markets Authority in the UK. So to withdraw access would be in breach of competition law. And secondly, we've also been able to unlock access to additional data through the requirement to transition to net zero. So it would be impossible for us to properly make all the plans, invest the capital where it's needed to transition without this data, and no one wants to be seen to be the person blocking that happening.
Okay. The guilt trip card. And in terms of expanding, is the plan just to dominate Europe and have a 1984 of energy, or do you want to expand outward as well?
Yeah, both. I think the next 12 months will be focused on what we can do in the UK because we've got such big traction. So, for instance, all the banks are signed up to a standard called PCAF in terms of for their carbon reporting, and PCAF has rated our data as gold standard. So that's helping us get traction with the banks very quickly. We've had Morgan Stanley come on board as an investor who's also helping with our new channels to market and sales as well. But my co-founder, Vikesh, was the head of utilities for EMEA for Wipro, and also has relationships in the States as well. So this funding will also enable us to properly finish our scoping out exercise for expansion opportunities. But our scoping already shows that it will take us between sort of 3 to 6 months per new territory, because the technology has been built like an open banking standard in terms of it's the same application regardless of where it will operate. It's just simply that there'll be a couple of different plugins for the meter specific data in different countries.
And will it be that easy to get the meter specific data in different countries? Is that regulated as well?
Some of it is, but so again, Vikesh, because he's worked with a lot of the market participants in lots of different countries, he's also got the commercial relationships to negotiate access. And again, he's validated that with a number of the entrants he's worked with previously. And then on top of Vikesh's sort of knowledge base and commercial relationships, then I'm a lawyer. And so I bring into play being able to have the legal arguments to unlock access to data, and particularly for new use cases, and particularly where we're able to obtain data without needing consent, for instance.
Understood. Thank you for sharing. Thanks for the awesome presentation. Sara?
What do you see as the largest barrier to kind of expand to a highly regulated market like Germany?
I think because of the net zero angle to all of this, obviously Germany is very liberal and would be one of the least countries wanting to be seen to be acting against helping that transition happen. So I think actually Germany as a country would be quite receptive.
And then
clearly
more very regulated in terms of data. So
So
Germans are like this. They use Facebook all day, but then they scream when they have to use COVID tracing app.
Sure. I think there's an education piece about understanding what data is actually being shared and what it does or doesn't reveal about you. So when we're obtaining data under legitimate consent, it's aggregated data. So if you think, that bank example of their mortgage portfolio, it's showing the carbon footprint of that entire portfolio. And that can be like 1.5 million properties. So I don't think any individual customer would be worried about their privacy being breached in that kind of example. Even if it's a smaller volume of buildings, it's still, it's not the kind of data, that you see sort of in the news about being able to see your occupancy patterns and, security risks and things like that. That sort of data would never be accessed unless there was consent for a particular purpose.
Thank you so much, Jane. I was thinking you already touched upon like the recommendations you can give out to reach like the net zero path. To what extent can you personalize those recommendations, and also how much of this can you actually productize, and how much is then again like more of like, let's say, consulting work?
So the personalization is built into our solution. So we never look at making a recommendation until we have that building's data. So the recommendation is happening when the customers opt in, consent to receive that personalized product service message. So for instance, if they are wanting to renew their mortgage with their bank, and the bank saying, well, actually that we've got a new green mortgage product where you can get lower interest rates if you install certain low carbon measures, would you like to get a quote for that? They say yes, and then we can, as I said, instantly personalize what measures would be appropriate to their home, be it retrofit insulation or solar panels, battery, electric vehicle, heat pumps, and give them that business model and the energy efficiency that is ties back to their actual consumption patterns and current cost and current supplier and so forth.
And then I'm not sure if I fully understood it, but what would you say is like your key USP in accessing the data? I mean, you mentioned like your legal background and your co-founder's commercial background, I believe, but like, what's the hard to copy part of it?
It's the unique IP that we've built around the customer profiles and the recommendation engine. So in terms of the energy market, as an example, in the domestic sector, the whole energy industry operates assuming that people are either one of two profiles, their only difference being whether or not you've got economy 7 overnight electric storage heating. That is it. They have no idea if you're a studio flat or a 10-bedroom castle, what part of the country you are, what sort of occupancy you have, the building materials, whether or not you've got solar or an EV. They're completely blind to all these different characteristics that play a major role in terms of someone's demand patterns, but also whether or not they actually might be a supplier as well as demand, either supplying from solar panels or battery, or even just simply energy flexibility in peak out periods. So, that rich data set that we're building up there in terms of better understanding different household types, different business types, and again, within those profiles, having not just the energy patterns, but also the cost and the carbon elements to those profiles as well is new. No one's been able to do that before. And then the recommendation engine, again, is a new area. So, I mean, yes, in terms of comparing and switching energy tariffs, that's been around for ages. But in terms of tying that into more complex tariff types, like time of use, for instance, or enabling households to participate in demand-side response. So we were onboarded by the National Grid last week to start paying everyone, no matter how big or small a consumer, up to £3 per kilowatt hour of electricity saved in peak. And then the ability to sort of look at a whole energy profile and whole energy requirements. So not just, your supply from the grid, but also considering the mix of, things like panels and EVs and so forth.
£3 per kilowatt hour? What's the energy prices?
I know, it's mad, isn't it? So about 50p.
And they're paying £3, so 6x the price.
Yeah. So we also established a voluntary carbon market at the beginning of this year, where we've been starting to pay people 3p per kilowatt hour of electricity. So going to £3 is enormous.
Yeah, it seems like bankrupting enormous, but
well, but if you look at their alternative costs in terms of buying, in the late stage markets and the problems that we have in terms of security of supply from Europe and competition of what is the scarcity of supply that is there. They've been paying up to £6 a kilowatt hour with alternative solutions.
Okay, understood. Other questions, Sara, Mascha?
No, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Jane, thanks for presenting Perse. Is it Perse?
It is,
Perse?
yeah.
Okay. Thanks for presenting Perse. It's very interesting what you were doing. I remember when I first got the pitch deck, I had quite a trouble figuring out exactly what it was, and then I got a little more information, and it's clearly fascinating. You guys have built something very interesting there, and I think there's a big future. Let's move.
I think I do need to check the pitch deck a bit more in detail to fully understand what.
We've got a longer version as well, which helps.
You need the longer version.
Yeah.
We'll definitely recommend the longer version. So we're on the energy side of things. Why not keep it there and go with SolarGaps? They're making smart solar blinds for your house to reduce your energy usage and generate more energy in the process. You want to take things over, Evgen?
Yes. Hello, everyone. Great to see all of you. So basically what we do, we generate energy from the windows. How we do that?
Do you want to share your screen, or do you want to do? Okay, there we go.
Yes. Let's take a look. So on the picture, you may see our product installed on the World Trade Center of Barcelona. So take a look at the problem. About 40% of electricity is spent in the modern cities on air conditioning. And more we use air conditioning, more we heat our planet. But how we can mitigate global warming and increase our energy efficiency? So we believe the green energy is a solution. But smart cities are limited in space to install rooftop solar panels. And the good news, they have practically unlimited vertical space, which can be utilized with help of our technology for the green energy generation. SolarGaps is advancing the way of how future cities will be powered. Our technology is smart photovoltaic blinds that automatically track the sun to attract the highest efficiency, to have the highest efficiency and generate energy all day long. As a result, you will save up to 30% on your energy bill. Our current presence is we already made about 300 installations worldwide, 20 plus distributors selling our product in 20 countries. Competition to our product is ordinary blinds, which doesn't generate energy and doesn't give you so much value as SolarGaps. So basically, our product pay for themselves in 5 years. With solar panels, you can still generate energy, but this energy can be easily wasted toward air conditioning. And solar glass is quite expensive and not efficient for now. So our product is a plug-and-play device. So you basically install SolarGaps on the window and connect to the wall outlet with grid-tie inverter, and it automatically power all devices in your home. In countries like Italy, it's allowed to connect up to 900 watts. In Germany, 600 watts without any permission. So basically, you can install SolarGaps by yourself. Core features of our product is definitely generation of energy, auto tracking mode, which can be automatically switched on by app, and significant carbon footprint reduction and integration with majority of smart home systems. Advantage for enterprise customers is definitely reputation for their buildings, certification like LEED and BREEAM, which allows high level and social responsible companies. We started 5 years ago from NASA Center, and I finished Singularity University in California. We applied for the first patents. Then it was selected by Hux Accelerator. We received a certification for our product and Amazon Award. Then we start manufacturing of our blinds. We received Smart E-Energy Award in Munich Expo and 1 million grant from the Horizon 2020. And we start scaling our manufacturing. For now, we have fully started manufacturing of our products that we supply to 20 distributors worldwide. As you see, market is booming and is significantly increased during the last aggression from Russia, and we see potential growth in Germany and Spain, all Europe basically. While SolarGaps is focusing on R&D, marketing, and supply chain management, our local partners can benefit from the large-scale projects focused on the sales, installation, and maintenance. So we provide clear price structure so our dealer can benefit from that. We have a great team which combined a lot of expertise in IoT development, hardware development, big solar plant installation, and business development flows. Here's some pictures that you may see our product installed in Netherlands, in Italy, Germany as well. We have a number of
1 minute warning.
We have a number of B2B projects we did recently. One of them in Portugal with EDP Renewables. And also we are doing currently a large project in Germany with some big DIY reseller called Hellweg. So this year it can be up to 10 million in sales with Hellweg. So basically they have 200 stores where SolarGaps they will sell. Our steps, we are raising 3 million to increase our presence in Europe, to start a few assembling center. For instance, one of them will be in Poland by the end of this year. Yes, that's basically what I want to say. So we was featured by TechCrunch, Mashable Wearable, and so on. And as TechCrunch said, videos become powerful with SolarGaps. Thank you so much.
Really cool.
Okay, ready for a question?
Go ahead, Mascha.
I just wanted to say, I think Matt is muted. I don't know if you're aware.
I am muted. Aha, very good, very good. Take it away.
Thank you very much for the pitch. I would be interested, can you elaborate a bit more on your go-to-market? And also, do you only sell to B2B customers or also private households?
We started from the B2C just to showcase possible installation for our product. Now we have big, as I mentioned, reseller and also some kind of government funded projects. For instance, on Friday we started POC with City of Zurich. So it will be large scaling in Switzerland this year. So I hope that we can jump to B2B market very, very fast. It definitely requires a lot of trust and also insurance and funding to be able to grow as fast as we see this market now growing. That's why we're looking for support to support our growth. And all the design bureau, all the designers. So we recently also did one project in Zurich with Rene Architects, who implemented our product on their multifamily buildings, and they're supposed to build a 4,000 building of such kind. So definitely first POC, and then they start to scale.
Mm-hmm.
What company was that? I'm based in Zurich.
Rene Architect near the Zurich. I will send you pictures right away. Our presentation.
Very cool.
And also picture with Stadt of Zurich and SolarGaps as of doing first POC.
One potential just kind of challenge or complication. What happens when people are in the offices and want to have the windows open but also be charging solar?
That's why we have a lot of automation. When people enter into the room, blind gives you a lot of light, and then when you left your office, blinds can go to the maximum energy efficient position. Also with your house, you can operate it by your phone, so you can set different scenario. So there is no compromise between the comfort and energy efficiency. So you will choose always best scenario wherever you want. And it also has some gaps between them, so it's not fully dark anyway. So you still feel comfortable inside.
how much output is such a blind generating? Like, how does it compare in terms of energy efficiency with a traditional PV system?
Yes, we're using high efficiency solar module from SunPower with efficiency 22.5%, and we can reach 100 watt per square meter. So basically, a standard window, it's about 500 watt per hour. So it's enough to power air conditioning for free for many cases. So we have many cases of B2C installation when air conditioning powers directly from the SolarGaps. So that's our key selling point: free air conditioning for everyone and free energy from the windows.
What's the payback period?
In Switzerland and Germany, 4 or 5 years. Yeah, in the US, depending on the state, in New York area, we currently in discussion with a few very large owners of commercial property, very large. And payback period also the same, 4 or 5 years, not more.
How does it compare in cost to, because so I've seen a lot of companies doing we call them in German balcony solar installations. And I mean, the advantage of them is that you the installation isn't that difficult, that you can just kind of plug them into the energy system. I guess that's the same for you guys. You just are plugged plugged in.
Yeah, similar, and now it's much easier to do all this connection. As I mentioned, in Germany, up to 600 watt, you may connect easily without permission. In Italy, 800 watt, and in different European countries, they simplify process.
And so you compared it, the price comparison, or the comparison you mentioned to Mascha, was it compared to normal PV panels, go on the roof, but also or also those cheaper balcony solar panels, because this is an option too, right?
Yeah, it's an option if you have balcony, but most of office buildings, of hotels, and so on doesn't have balconies, so they have flat glass surface, which can be utilized for our product. Yeah, and definitely, if you talk about the labor cost, it's for rooftop solar panels, it's about 30%, even 50%. So our product easy to install, easy to maintain. It doesn't have problem with a hail or storm. We have a video from Port of Barcelona where our blinds withstand 100 kilometers per hour wind speed by storm of Gloria. So we have a number of feedback from B2B that will gives you all the benefits of our technology.
And the blinds, are you producing themselves? And are you completely flexible with the type of blinds and I don't know, shapes and so on you can produce? Or
mostly we are using the common system for Venetian blinds, C80, which is very popular in Europe. And for instance, in Switzerland, we are working with some companies. Last week I met Regazzi, so they are doing blinds. So also we work for some time with Schenker Storen. So it's a lot of companies in Germany like Varema and so on. So we don't want to disrupt this part. We want to empower the local manufacturer to produce our product. So we want to license manufacturing for them and start scaling very fast.
What do you see as the biggest hurdle for rolling this out? And in terms of you guys, who do you see as the biggest competitor? Is the competitor rooftop solar? Is it other energy saving systems? Is it we had a solid fuel cell company on here that was converting from natural gas. Where do you see the big competition, and who's the ideal customer for this? Is it hotels? Is it malls, as you said, office buildings?
Yes, any surface which cannot afford or any buildings that cannot afford rooftop installation. My personal recommendation, if you can install on the roof, it's great, but then you need to think about the facade, which is also can be a part of energy production capacity. Most competition from the source rooftop solar. But keep in mind, about 70% of population doesn't have roof to mount solar panels. So basically, it's 100 times more market that we want to address.
Why put it on the shades versus just on the building space?
It's very easy. So when we generate 100 watt per square meter, we also prevent about 300 watts of heat energy which comes through the window during the summertime that anyway should be cooled down. So we're solving the biggest problems with cooling buildings and also with generating energy. So by combining this key proposition, we can give much more value for the end customer.
But what percentage of office buildings are having their blinds closed the majority of the sunny day?
In Switzerland, it's, I don't know, maybe 70%, in Germany, a lot. So basically all the buildings in Europe require to have outside shade by design. So they have special recommendation to install shades instead of using air conditioning. And by doing so, we also giving the additional reason why they need to not. It's like a more sustainable way of using real estate. I work for real estate for more than 10 years, and I understand how to make it more greener.
Awesome. Sara, Mascha, any last questions for SolarGaps?
No, really cool product. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. Then I would move things on to our last, but certainly not our least company of the night. And that's Roni with Othello, their end-to-end sustainable product returns. A very, very cool concept. I'm sure if you've ever bought anything, you also return something. And returning things online is a nightmare, a hassle, and super bad for the environment. You want to take things away, Roni, and tell us a little bit more about what you guys are doing?
Yes, absolutely. Can you hear me? Is everything good?
Loud and clear.
Excellent. Okay, so and now for something completely different. Okay, Othello. Our logo is Return It Forward, and I'm giving a little bit of an homage to you, Matt, because forward, and inside the forward comes a whole bunch of things, because what we're doing is we're creating a return system which is not just about sustainability and about retail and revenue being really in the center point, but it's also about doing something that has social impact and sustainability, and about paying it forward in the retail industry. We shouldn't have a right of existence, because retail and let's say sustainability doesn't really go hand in hand. But what has happened over the past few years with the huge proliferation of e-commerce is the flip side, which is the returns. Okay, we've all been there. We've all been purchasing, and then we've been returning when the item doesn't suit us. We have regret, it doesn't fit, or because it's Tuesday, it's broken. It doesn't matter. We're not judgmental. When you reach a model where instead of trying and buying, you're buying and trying, inevitably, you're going to want to return. Now, here's the thing. 30% of everything that we purchase online is returned. Okay, in the States alone, this is a $761 billion problem. Okay, and apart from that, $30 billion is associated with returns related fraud, people using the items, people returning fake or counterfeit goods, people returning items that are not the original purchase, etc., etc. So the other side of this, the sustainability side, and this is a very hard slide to watch, is that 50% of all the items that we return are actually liquidated, dumped, burnt, buried, or trashed out in the open in some deserts. Some of them are liquidated in third-party countries. It's a very unsustainable and terrible situation with very little regulation. Certainly nothing coming out of COP27 We are talking about indirect emissions and very little accountability. And what we're talking about is a place where the solution that we provide is providing really circular returns. It's a paradigm that we are coining, we are creating, we're doing thought leadership in order to that in 5 years' time, we're going to become the de facto standard for circular returns. What does this mean? Very, very schematically, when we buy something, it's almost like, elves or fairies come and bring this item to our homes overnight. Not true, of course. The item is taken off shelf, it's delivered, it's, of course, it's packaged first and it gets to us. The reverse logistics, which is this middle row that you can see here, is similar to the forward logistics. However, it is much longer, much less sustainable. There are multiple points. And on average, every item that we decide to return is touched about 20 times by different people before, and this is the clincher, it reaches the returns warehouse, where finally its destination is decided, and 50% of the time it'll land up in landfills and secondary markets. This means that millions and millions and millions of items are circulating the planet at any given moment in time, and at least half of these are going to land up trashed. Whether they're in the nylons, whether they're new, whether they've been used or not, they're simply going to be thrown away. Untenable, and it makes my blood boil. So we see returns as unique. We treat every
1 minute warning.
Thank you. And we see it as an opportunity to reduce costs, carbon emissions, and packaging. We do this by calculating unique routes for every return, exclusive inspection to ensure that these items are valid and authentic, and then we enable authorized partners to resell and to do something great for our next life. It's a very simple scenario in which the customer has a personalized returns journey, and we do calculations on this return to find the optimized outcome. And we are to date processing 2 million orders. We have raised incredible metrics for our customers in which we've reduced their returns. We have reduced their paper and packaging. We have conformed or transformed their refunds into exchanges. This is completely unique in the returns atmosphere, and we are doing something that is ultimately returning the item forward, which is better for offline retailers, online retailers.
Time is up. I'm sorry, Roni.
This was the last slide.
Very good. How much are you guys raising? What are you looking for?
We are raising $5 million. We've raised $1 million to date. We already have $1.5 million committed. We are live, commercialized, revenue-based. We are moving. We've been in Europe for 2 years, a little under 2 years, and now we've been asked to move to the States to take responsibility of certain customers and do all of their returns. It's a very, very exciting time, and I'm actually sitting here in the States. It's very exciting.
So are you saying 15% of all online e-commerce gets trashed, and then 30% of items get...
I am saying that, yes. I'm saying that the statistics around manufacturing are way worse than you can imagine. And we have an opportunity here to find a next life where the next life isn't necessarily salvage, and it's not necessarily re-commerce. It's primary market. It's enabling retail brands to capture or untrap their returns, to know where they are, to reroute them to authorized resellers wherever they may be in the world. So if you are in Switzerland and I am in Seattle and Mascha and Sara are in Germany, then we can all route our items to authorized resellers to resell them, or if necessary to recycle, to refurbish, etc. So we're avoiding cross-border reverse logistics at every cost.
Very cool. Very cool.
Very cool.
Yeah.
How are you different than Cycleon, Rebound, all of those?
Such a great question. Cycleon and Rebound and some of the others that you haven't mentioned, but I feel very comfortable to say what I'm saying. They are basically printing shipping labels for the return items. These items will be sent to the same place where they will be processed and where they will be part and parcel of this exact scenario that I've painted. What they're doing, what these competitors are doing is basically giving an easy experience for return, but they're not looking at the item. They're not looking at you and me. They're not looking at the cost efficiency. So that, for example, if an item that you and I have purchased is more expensive than the reverse logistics itself, they don't have any capacity to understand that and to realize it and to do something alternative with the item. It's a printing, label, return system, routing everything to the same place, a global policy. We see returns as unique as fingerprints, and we also look at you. What's your return history? What have you returned in the past? What are you likely to return in the future? Where do you live? How many of the items that you've returned are actually faulty? We're reducing returns related, fraud related issues. We're also using the user as a basis for the data collection. So you and I might sit in the same city, but we might have an alternative route for our item based on where the nearest store is, the inventory levels of the store, your history and my history. It's all data that is aggregated and calculated in real time, and really looks at every return as unique.
But how do you do this beforehand? I mean, yes, you can obviously say like, well, usually what I return is good quality, so I wrote it back to the store. But usually you need to have some kind of inspection before, so that you can kind of pre-sort in what goes back into resale. Maybe the small stitches goes back into the website. How do you do that?
People are going to think I paid you, Sarah, because the truth is that we have a unique inspection module. And this is not something that our competitors have. It's differentiated technology, which is actually patent pending. And this inspection module is what actually leads this item, this unique return, to be validated, authenticated, that you made the purchase from this place at this time. We also validate the condition of the item so that we know what condition it's in. So at any given moment in time, anyone, anywhere can use this inspection module. It can be used by you and me. It can be used inside the stores. It can be used inside the warehouses. Today, it's in the hands of millions of shoppers for our customers, and they are using it in very specific scenarios. It's already live today. It's working. As I said, we're fully commercialized. And the inspection itself is reducing returns because the retailers upfront can decide whether they approve or reject an item returning to the warehouse. So it's very, very cool. And it's a super easy, customizable product, module, which is different if you're returning a pair of shoes, or if you're returning a bookshelf, or if you're returning a photo frame. This is our very unique advantage, is not just the unique routing, but it's this unique inspection that enables this item to be validated, inspected, and resold.
Does it mean, so on my phone, I take a picture of it and this is your module, and then it says return to the store, or like put into the box and enter. So what usually Advanced Supply Chain or something is doing in their warehouses, you would be doing through a photo model.
So the inspection does involve taking a couple of snaps. And what happens is that the engine, when it looks at the return item, if you use the inspection, we're basically crunching at any moment of time all of the data of where you are, how much the item weighs, what's the transportation, et cetera, including the inspection related details if they're included at that point. They may not necessarily be involved at that point. And then we basically intercept and we route this item to wherever the next best shelf is, based on the data.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
How many successful returns have you processed? And what's your rate of kind of success?
Our rate of success is 100%. We handle all the returns for our customers that are commercialized to date. We have processed over 2 million customer orders. We have processed over, I would say, 500,000 returns of these orders. We also have transformed at least 10% into exchanges, which is something that most returns company that value themselves will do as well. Exchange is a very important part of the sustainability process. We also do something that's very unique, that we calculate the carbon that we are reducing, the carbon emissions that we are reducing. And we also reduce the customer calls revolved around returns by 25%. So this is a very, very huge. We go in, and our objective is to just do the returns. We are a returns management solution. We're not a logistics solution. Some of the competitors were listed here. Really, it's about logistics. It's about how to get the items back to the returns warehouse as quickly as possible. We're not about that. We're about making the smart, sustainable, and circular.
Mm-hmm. What would you say is the main driver for customers to use you? Like, is it cost savings, sustainability concerns, or is it like the regulatory side that's driving things?
You know, I wish that regulation was a factor, because then we would be the de facto solution. There is no regulation around e-commerce returns. The main driving factor is the reduction of costs. It's the reduction of carbon emissions and paper. And it's also for retail brands who are, we're enterprise SaaS, B2B SaaS, it's for retail brands to take control of their returns, to know where they are, to know what the optimal do to do with them, to route them to profit optimal locations. It's about, it's not, when you go with one of the competitors mentioned, you have no control over what happens to that item, where it's sent, and theoretically you just haven't a clue of what's going on. Here you have not only the ability to track and understand and know who's returning what, where in the world, why, to see pictures, to approve, reject, etc., but you can also plan your returns management ecosystem. You can integrate it with your backend, with your SAP, your Salesforce Commerce Cloud, your Magentos. You can. We fundamentally integrate with inventory systems to ensure that items where offline stores are, the inventory is low, then we can route to these stores in order to buff up the inventory. So it's a very, very smart post-purchase solution.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of cost, what is your cost saving potential then?
In the first 5 months of going live, we had saved our customer over 500,000 pounds. Okay, this is a very, very high ROI. Frankly, it was about 200% more than our asking price, which, by the way, we're a software subscription based tier-based software subscription. So the ROI for them was absolutely terrific. With over a year has passed, we've saved probably closer to the 2 million at this point, $2 million. The savings are very, very clear. Our customers have renewed their contracts. As I said, they're also, one of our customers is bringing us to the States to take over their entire returns operation for US and Canada. The concept has proven itself. We are raising money to really burst open the sales funnel. We have about $600 million in potential, high up on the funnel, not low down, just by the pyramid. So the purpose of our funding is both to really target new markets and new verticals in terms of our sales and our sales closure processes, and also to continue to advance on our technology, because especially in the inspection space, when you provide customization of inspection for a leaf blower or for a PlayStation or for a pair of shoes, you actually need to do a little bit of market research and work with some of the experts inside that vertical to ensure that your inspection is really covering all your bases. The potential in the retail world is truly incredible. We have very, very modestly said that our market share is 4.2 billion. think if you look at the way we do go to market, which is a mixture of reselling and channels, and for example, Salesforce Commerce Cloud is also our reseller. As an example, we really are targeting the global enterprise B2B brands who are not just interested in bottom line, but they're also interested in the sustainability savings and the carbon reductions, and who understand that their science-based goals can actually be reached in creative and interesting ways. And also, before the regulator comes, they are going to be in place with a solution that is circular and that is a very, very big savings on cost efficiency and carbon reduction.
It sounds too good to be true. What's the problem?
I tell you something. I always say that this is a win-win-win solution, win-win for the retail, for the consumers, and for the planet. The huge challenge here is that we are being audacious. Okay, we are saying that the reverse logistics process that you saw in the slide, which has been around for thousands of years, we're saying it's not good enough. Okay, and that's a huge challenge. Okay, when you come with functional innovation, which we do, people start to listen. But when you come with technical innovation, which we have, people start to listen. But when you say, listen, reverse logistics, we need to use circular economy to make it more efficient and more sustainable, then it's a difficult conversation that you have to have with multiple players in the system. So when we are talking to global retail brands with $10 million of revenue a month, and thousands and thousands and thousands of returns, our discussion is not just with e-commerce. It is with the guys in the warehouse. It is with the CFO. It is with the innovation and sustainability leads. We are truly creating very audaciously a new paradigm for how reverse logistics handles e-commerce returns. And we all know that e-commerce returns has just exploded. So at the moment, especially with Corona and COVID, retail is still playing catch up. They're still in this recovery phase where they're trying to figure out, what do we do? In the period of the very, very heightened pandemic, what they did with e-commerce returns is they said, keep it for 100 days, keep it for 300 days, keep your item, don't send it back to us. This is unsustainable, and it doesn't make fiscal or economical sense. So our sales cycle is too long. Okay, this is our challenge, and this is also the question that you have asked several times. Why will it fail? It's because we need to bring on board people who can fundamentally understand that disruption is needed.
I think disruption is definitely needed, especially 15% of e-commerce is getting trashed. I know it's terrible with shoes as well, especially anything clothing that people have to try on that has a size. We have a bit of a plague when it comes to that. Mascha, Sara, do you guys have other questions for Roni?
No, thank you very much.
Awesome. Then thanks for sharing, Roni. We have to move on to our last section of the night then. That is sponsored by the Eugen Agency. Again, there's going to be pretty awesome prizes for everyone pitching and for our presenting company. So for everybody pitching, you will get a customized email template. I want to say, sorry, it's the first time we're rolling this out. There's going to be some pretty cool stuff coming from the Eugen Agency. And then for the winner, first prize, you unlock a new landing page for you, your product, service, etc., that's fully customized and personalized to your business. So you can send traffic, send customers there, get email, build that up, etc., and an email template for your company. So when you're setting up your new email autoresponder, you want it to look professional, like you've already done a Series B, C, D, etc., and you're already rolling. That's the best way to wow the large corporate customers. So this is brought to you by the Eugen Agency, who's bringing you tonight's episode of the Startup Tank. To find out more about them and what they do, the Startup Tank, 4WARD.VC/Eugen. And of course, our episode's brought to you by Valbon by Carta as well, the system we love to use to set up SPVs. And now let's move on to our last segment of the night, the Startup Tank. our climate sorry, the door opened, our climate startup of the night. And Mascha, Sara, everybody, now's the time where you say your kind of one or two favorite companies that have pitched, who you're most interested in, who you'd want to set up a call with, possibly make an investment in, etc. Do you want to go first, Sara?
Yes. So for me personally, because I've spent a lot of time actually in the reverse logistics space, I did a few due diligence on the very large players back in my consulting days and some strategy projects. I still believe Othello is a bit too good to be true, but if you're holding what you promise, I think for me that has a huge impact.
And Mascha?
Yeah, I think for me it's actually Mantra. I've been looking at a lot of solutions in the carbon accounting space. I realized a lot of players have identified the food industry as an interesting sector to look at. So I would really like to learn more about like how you actually manage to track Scope 3 emissions in the space.
And what if you both had to pick a second company as well, just to make sure we have an overlap and a winner?
I have a feeling I didn't understand Perse completely yet. So I think this could be very interesting, but I haven't completely grasped exactly what they're doing. Or what you're doing, so I'm looking forward to seeing your long deck. But based on what I have understood, I think for me it would also be Mandara, that this is something like very neat, like very like focused solutions that create transparency and enable reduction in carbon over the long term. So I think it's a good approach. Retraced did this for the fashion industry, or as doing this for the fashion industry, just did a very big round. So I think this holds some potential.
Yeah, I can only agree to what Sara has been saying.
Then it looks like we've got a consensus, because I would go with Othello and Mandra as well as kind of my 1 and 2, not sure on the order. Just fixing e-commerce and the fact that so many boxes are getting shipped back and trashed and all of the waste that goes into that. And then on the Mandra side, I'm very skeptical of carbon accounting platforms, because I feel like everyone knows how to lose weight, but until you actually try to lose weight, the knowing is not really something. So we all know what to do, but I think this is something where with the guilt trips and with the pushing suppliers and with the making changes and with some of the suggestions that they have, then you can make serious impacts on a really large scale. I mean, we all eat. There's a lot of us. That's a pretty big carbon impact right there. So I think are we happy with co-champions of the night? I'll talk to Eugen and make sure that you can both get your champion prize for that, and everybody else will get hooked up as well. I'll send you an email with some more details. Mascha, Sara, any last words? Where can people find you? Learn more?
Yes, find me on LinkedIn, reach out, and then let's just stay in contact. And good luck to all of you. Very, very impressed with what you've created. And I think this is speaking for me. Whenever I meet entrepreneurs who kind of created a whole new product and are so bold to do this, I think you're the real bold ones. We spend other people's money, right, in investing and choosing the really cool companies. But I think you're the true heroes, and it was very interesting to listen to all of your stories and to see kind of where it has led you. So if I can help out in any way, do let me know.
Yeah, also very happy to continue the conversation and also connect on LinkedIn and so on. Very interesting solutions tonight.
Definitely.
Yeah, incredible companies. Thank you, everybody, for coming on and pitching. Just because you weren't chosen doesn't mean you're not doing something awesome. You all are. The problem is you got to pick favorites. Luckily, none of you are our kids, so it's easier to do. And we've picked some pretty incredible favorites. So now some clarification on our prize from Eugen. First prize, a free custom-built conversion landing page for your product or service, and an investor-ready pitch deck, or an investor-ready pitch deck. We made some changes on that. And for everybody else, a one-on-one discovery on branding, positioning for your product, service, etc., to set you up for the best chance of success in raising money or just pulling customers in because you got to wow them. And then, of course, this is brought to you guys by Carta. Carta has all of the services you need for pretty much anything, whether you're an investor like us, whether you're a founder like you guys. It handles just about everything: cap table management, equity, employee stock options, setting up a fund, setting up SPVs, et cetera, et cetera. To learn more about what them and what they do, 4WARD.VC/Carta. And what is 4WARD.VC? We're an early stage climate investor and group. We have an accredited investor syndicate and more exciting news coming soon, where we help startups, the early stage folks who really want to transform, change the world. We help them do that in a big, big way faster. We've connected with, in the past year, it's probably closer to 1,000 or so, climate funds, incubators, accelerators, CVCs, corporates. And that's what we bring to bear. You can find our database at 4WARD.VC/VC database. And then we work with founders in a really hands-on way. If we invest, we're not going to be the biggest check there. We're not going to be the biggest investor at the cap table, but we try to be the biggest hustler and bring in all of the smart boys and girls to put in bigger checks. So if you want to apply for us, 4WARD.VC. If you're interested in pitching here, thestartuptank.com. And if you're tuning in, hit the subscribe button or find us on Apple, Spotify, Google Play, etc. We're on all the major platforms. Subscribe, leave a review, be friendly, share it with a friend. And thanks for tuning in today's episode of The Startup Tank. I hope you had some fun. Now it's time for our European folks to grab some dinner.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers,
Thank you,
folks.
everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.